Welcome to Spotting the Divine, Finding God in the Everyday, where heart-to-heart conversations with guests reveal God's presence in the obvious and the utterly surprising.
Hello, everyone. Mark Thompson here, my wife, Amy. We're doing episode 4 with Demetrius Thies. Demetrius is in a class with us, a podcasting class, and this is how we've come to know each other, and he's a great guy, and I think you'll really enjoy hearing from Demetrius today. So maybe the starting point, Demetrius, is just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, just what you think people might want to know, just a little bit about your background.
So I'm been here in Kansas City my whole life. I was born on the Missouri side, but raised in Kansas. And
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Roseland in Roland Park, Kansas. That's where I
Okay.
went to elementary school at.
Yeah,
Then I went to Indian Hills for middle school.
right
And
there where
then-
we live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And
you have any
then,
brothers and sisters?
yeah, I have a little brother. We're 17, 18 years apart.
oh boy,
God.
Yeah, I'm the
Wow.
oldest. Yeah, it was a surprise.
Well, that must be
But, yeah.
fun to have a younger brother. That with that kind of a spread
Yeah, it's like I said, it was a surprise, and
to you or your parents.
well, to both, yeah.
That's great. Well, what about what does your everyday life look like? What's your typical day right now?
Working, and then taking this class to learn more about the podcast and
Mhm.
stuff. I was trying to start one with friends, and then it just seemed like they never happened.
Yeah,
And yeah, just that's what I do, just work and
yeah. Well, and with that kind of a life, intermingling with other people at times, probably you have kind of a set schedule maybe, but intermingling with people, and I think you've told us that you also are involved in a church. Is that right?
Yes. So I go to St. Pius in Mission, Kansas. I've been a parishioner there since 2005.
Okay.
Before that, I kind of was living with my grandparents.
Uh-huh.
So, like, kind of switching off like each weekend. So I'd live with my mom's parents one weekend, and then during the week, my mom's parents, because I went to school and they lived up in Roland Park. Then my dad's parents stayed with them on weekends, switched off.
Yeah.
So I went to Holy Name there off
yeah.
of Southwest Boulevard, and then I went to Queen of the Holy Rosary Catholic Church in Wea, Kansas.
Oh, all the way out there.
That's where my dad's parents lived.
oh.
Well, my grandpa lives there. My grandma, she recently passed away October of 2025. She had multiple myeloma.
Oh.
And, so, yeah, and I would say this, my grandparents' feast, my dad's parents, they really, how do I say this? They were the ones that instilled the going to church every Sunday
Mhm.
growing up,
Yep.
and just always, they were like the ones that who the person I am today is because of them.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. And
I can think back to really our first day of podcasting, and the instructor asked everybody, what podcasts they had listened to recently. And I think I was first, but Amy second. And she said she had listened to a faith-based podcast. And from that, as we went around the room, people identified themselves as being Christian or being faithful. Do you remember that?
vaguely, I remember, yeah.
Because the reason you identified yourself at the time too, and I'm wondering if in terms of your life and going to church and then outside of church, how does your faith play in your life?
I try to always glorify God in everything I do. And I don't care what people think about it because it's something good,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to be ashamed of that.
Right.
When I played baseball and basketball growing up, and so I always tried I kept God always. I'd be the first to the park, just taking practice batting swings and just having that moment of at ease and just having that moment with God, and then talking and just doing things like that.
So when you say talking, in terms of you're talking about talking with God,
Yeah,
right?
like praying to God and just yeah.
And so when you were at baseball practice and you start with the prayer, it sounds like, and then do you feel like God's presence when you're playing sports?
I feel like God is always there, and even in times if you don't feel it, it can be silently or whatever. I feel like He's always there, and that's to me that's great because it's always it makes life better knowing that I have God in my life and guiding me into the right directions, and yeah.
Demetrius, have you had any crossroads in your life that you can look back on? Our podcast is kind of focused on just finding God in every day. So a crossroads, maybe it was a positive thing. Maybe it was a really challenging, sad time. Maybe it was a joyful time. Can you think of something in your past other than sports where you saw or felt that presence?
Let me think. There's many. I'm just trying to think. Outside of sports, yeah, there's been times where like maybe school was tough, or maybe had a bad relationship and it didn't work out with. Because I've had a few girlfriends, but I know none of them lasted, obviously. But probably in the moments where like this kind of was like, that didn't work out, was down. But then, like, it felt like as time went on, it got better, and I felt like God, you know, what's the word I'm trying to say? He guided me, and it wasn't meant to be, and that's what looking at that now, it's God has a plan for all of us, and it was just one of those things where it just didn't work out with me and her, and I'm okay with that. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and it's so fun to talk with you. You're a younger generation than we are, and just the hope that it gives us to hear you speak so freely. And it sounds like it was your grandmother, you said,
So
who really.
yeah, my grandparents, Thies, they they instilled it in me, but also my mom's mom, so my great grandma on my mom's side, or
Wow.
my
So
grandma,
you knew her. Did you
my
know her?
great grandma, yes.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
neat.
she passed away the year of COVID. She was 95.
Wow.
She got COVID, recovered from that, but then she got pneumonia, and then she didn't recover from that. But she
Yeah.
was staying in a assisted living, or not nursing home. I think it was an assisted living type thing. But when I was a kid growing up, she was in charge of one of the church pantries that wherever the church. It's on Southwest Boulevard, but where that plane is at, I forgot. There's like a church, some
The
Catholic
coffee
church over
shop.
there.
Yeah.
There was a
By the roastery
pantry.
down there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and then there was a church.
Is that Holy Name?
Or
No, Holy
Guadalupe,
Name is like
maybe.
by the highway, but it was
Okay.
way down. Well, there was like a church, and she was in charge of the pantry down off the corner, and I remember helping out there with her. So I would say between my great grandma from my mom's side, to my grandparents, my dad's side, them three have instilled of who I am, and I want to continue to live their legacy. I still have my grandpa, but as I said, my grandma passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I would just be curious, like, what forms of prayer do you have in your daily life? Maybe it's going to mass, maybe it's, something you do daily, a routine, or.
So yeah, it's going to church. Before and after church, I pray. I kneel, and I even stay after and pray too. I feel just being at church that's the home of the Lord Jesus Christ, and it just feels just great. And yeah, that's where I like to be, because it's just a peaceful moment, peaceful time, and getting closer with him. And yeah.
For people who maybe are wanting to hear God, but they don't know how to hear God, or they don't feel like God's speaking to them, but they want to have God speak to them. How is it that, you get in touch with God? How does it feel when God speaks to you? Is there a way, is it through, some of the things in your life, from, a beautiful scenery, songs, relationships with your grandparents, your mom and your dad, your younger brother? How do you find God appears in your life, and where you might look back and say, that was really God speaking to me?
I would say everything between, grandparents or just anything I do. Like I said, the things can be tough, but if it's that, praying and then just know you can do it and have faith that you can do it. That's how I get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So going, going back, are you asking like tell people like what can they do, or is it like?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking for people who think, is God real?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
people just listening to you thinking, oh gosh, it sounds like so easy for Demetrius. And maybe it's easy and maybe it's not. But what advice?
Maybe some
or
days
what?
it's easy and some
Yeah.
days it's hard.
Well, actually, thank you for asking that question. So for people out there that are struggling or whatnot, no, it's not easy, because, during the time even when Jesus was here, you seen what happened to him.
Yeah.
We're all gonna go through stuff, good and bad, and I would just say, like, don't give up. God is there, whether it's silently or if He's speaking to you. God is always there, and He always has our best interest. Don't give up on Him. He's real. He will guide you into the right direction. You just have to you have to dig deep and just find Him and pray, and He'll show up. And I believe that, because he does that with me, and He does it to people. I know He does that. So
As you look back on your young life, but some of the things that have happened in your life, do you ever look back and think, oh man, that was obviously God guiding me, or putting me into this situation, or helping me through this situation? Do you see things like that?
yes. So when I was in first grade, so I didn't know how to swim back then, and so it was the end of the so it was my first year playing baseball, and we had a party like at a friend's house the end of the year, and my mom and dad was getting changed into their swim trunks, and I was out there just by the edge, and no one didn't know I didn't know how to swim, so I kind of just I guess I lost my balance. I was going all over the place. It felt like it was a long time, but I almost drowned. But luckily, I guess my mom was in the kitchen by the window and seen it, and then screamed I couldn't swim. And then people started, and then that was a scary moment. But I know that that was just one of those things that just wasn't my time. God wasn't ready for me to die, and so that was. That was one experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then another experience, I was working at Hy-Vee, and this was before COVID. And so when we have I was working in the dairy and frozen at the time, and we had our dairy truck that came in. And so one of the pallets we were trying to get into the freezer, it wouldn't go. It kept on getting stuck. And we were trying to push it in, and I just looked under to see what it was getting caught on, and then I got up, and the next thing you know, the whole thing collapsed, like it fell. And it just seemed like that could have been really bad, because that was like frozen stuff, and one bucket was so frozen, could have hit me in the head. And even if I wouldn't have died, I mean, that could it can paralyze you, hit you in the right spot, or a brain bleed. So I would say that those two things there, just knowing God was there at the right time, it just wasn't my time to go. And I just, I'm thankful for that, because my story wasn't written off yet.
Yeah.
So
So you've lived in Kansas City area at least all of your life. So, and now you're a young adult. Where do you find people and activities and groups or friends that can support living a Christian Catholic lifestyle?
So I don't really. I don't really do much outside. I just really just go to church. I need to get more active into going to events. Like I have friends, but I don't go out to events. I need to do more of because like Catholic stuff. I know you mentioned something about City on the Hill, and I have friends that have talked about it. It's something that would be interesting to do.
Yes, that's a
I
really
would say
vibrant group.
that would be good because it's always great to surround yourself with the right group of people.
Sure,
and,
for sure.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just meeting new people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have, I know two things I'll suggest to you. One is they have Tuesdays at the Boulevard. So down at the Boulevard Brewery, they'll have a big pizza and beer party, over 21 crowd. And they also have an adoration event, typically monthly. So, hey, get on their website and check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it sounds fun, especially they do church too, and then doing that on a weekday, that'd be cool.
Right.
I sometimes go to church mass through the weekday. I used to do that a lot. I used to go on Fridays, and then I do that sometimes still too. It's just always great going to church. I love it.
I love that, Demetrius. You're keeping a smile on my face for the whole interview because it's just so fun to hear your enthusiasm and happiness and excitement for the faith.
Well, and then when I see you here today, before we came on, we were talking about, our descents, where we come from. And I think you said your dad grew up in Wea, Kansas. Is that right?
So they live. So my grandparents they have a house in Stillwell, Kansas. So southern Johnson County. But my grandpa, his parents lived near that church, so he's been a part of Wea his whole life.
Yeah.
So they lived down in southern
And
Johnson
did your
County.
dad spend time there then, growing up, or where?
At the farm?
Yeah.
So yeah, him and my uncle both did.
Yeah.
They would, when they were kids, they got to experience that. And yeah.
Well, and then you were saying your mother is of Mexican descent, right?
Yes.
And
yep.
she grew up maybe around in Kansas City, Kansas?
So if
Is
I'm
that
not
what you said?
mistaken, they lived in I think somewhere off of Southwest Boulevard and
Yeah.
in
Great
Kansas
area.
City, Missouri. They were on the
Okay.
Missouri side. Then they moved to Kansas when she was in first grade, I believe, and then
Mhm.
she's been in Kansas like her whole life.
And so just the fact that they came together somehow, I don't know how that happened, and produced a great guy like you. Do you see God involved in that somehow?
Yeah, I mean, it was he put me here on Earth for a reason. And sometimes I think like what because sometimes I try to think what is the reason, but I feel like it's leading people and being a religious person, try to lead people to Christ. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah.
And I just so that's one reason why I feel like I'm here is to spread the word, the
Right.
gospel,
So
'cause-
as we talk about finding God in the everyday, do you feel, or could you say that in some ways we're asking you about how do you find God in the everyday, but are there people in your life, do you think, that would say that you bring God to them, that's part of their everyday experience, that, maybe not every day, but when you come across them, they may say, you know what, that he brought God's voice to me, God's vision to me?
See, I hang out with a few friends, but I don't know if I try, like I said, I try to I can't really recall if I do or not because like I hang out with a few people, but not too many. Like I said, a lot of times I do myself or I pray.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'll try to talk to people about it, but I don't know if they,
Well, I'm noticing, for example, you have your crucifix on the chain around your neck, and that's outward. It's not behind your shirt. And why
Yeah.
do you do that?
Because Jesus, he died for us and for our sins and everything, and just glorifying him, and just not being ashamed of it,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it there was, so my grandpa, my mom's dad, passed last March of 2025, and it was like a day or two after he passed. One of my grandma's cousins came over to the house, and a lot of people was bringing stuff, and we were just talking, and somehow 9/11 was brought up, and she, we were talking about something, and then she was like, this is what my grandma's cousin said. She's like, how come? And she goes to church every Sunday. She's a Catholic too, but she said, how come God lets bad stuff happen to us and stuff? And all I said was, I said, Jesus went through. He went, got nailed to the cross. He died for us. If Jesus went through bad stuff, we have to as well. And it's not to be intended. It just is how life goes. And that's just what I said. That was my answer. And she kind of was like surprised and like, wow, you're right. And it's kind of that kind of stuff.
Wow, great. And you know what? I am guessing at your workplace, you didn't mention that, but knowing you from this class and just talking with you, even if you don't know if you're making an impact on the fellow employees, and then the people that you are handing, the food to, or handing, servicing and assisting, I think there's going to be messaging that maybe you don't even know that's happening. So,
Well, actually, going back to that, so at work, I do my job and stuff, and there's been a couple times where people will, they've give me a $20 bill, for a tip, and I'm not doing it for the money. I'm just doing my job, and I don't, I guess they see me working, and I guess that's one way that I guess God is, there in a way, and
Yeah.
even though I'm just working, I'm not doing it for the money.
But you bring, God is in you, part of you. So when you're working, whatever it may be, you're bringing that God with you. And whether he speaks outwardly through your voice, but he can also speak outwardly through your acts. And people notice those things.
I do want to say this. Like I said, I have a few friends and, this and that, but I would rather watch sports games with my grandparents.
Yeah.
Because that's, so when I was at Hy-Vee, it was around October 2017 when I moved to the dairy department, and so I got to have Sundays I didn't work. So the start of the 2018 Chiefs season, I really started watching Chiefs games with my grandparents, both sets. And I would
what a great memory.
I would pick that than doing it with friends. Nothing against friends. I enjoy my friends, but family is everything to me.
Yeah.
And now that I've lost two, it's tough, because that's the great moments that, yeah.
That's sweet.
That's very sweet. Well, thank you, Demetrius. We enjoyed talking with you. And we're here to just talk with everyday people about the ways that God is working and present in everyday life. And I think you really had a great story to share, and thank you for sharing it.
And one thing I would say about you, Demetrius, and this conversation that fits well with you, it was St. Francis who would say, preach the gospel every day, and if necessary, use words. And to me, it just feels like what you've really told us is that most of the way God communicates to you and the way you communicate God to others is really through your actions, just the way you live your life, being a good model, being with your grandparents as they progress in their age and enjoying them and learning from them. And so it's been really great. So
yeah, no, thank you for having me. And I'm not perfect. Now, I've made mistakes like we all have, but like I said, I glorify God and try to, preach it as well as I can. And Yeah.
Well, C.S. Lewis wrote that God whispers to us in our pleasures, but shouts in our pain. Whatever reason or whatever season you're in right now, a whisper or a shout, we hope today's conversation reminded you that He is speaking to you. Don't miss it.
Thanks for joining us on Spotting the Divine. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect on one story or insight from today's Heart to Heart. Let it open your eyes to God's surprising presence in your everyday. Until next time, keep spotting.